Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Well, we finally made it. There's now whistleblower protection that has been signed into law by President Biden, and it would happen on December 23rd. The 2023 National Defense Authorization Act was signed by Biden, so that means now there is protection for anyone within the Pentagon or military-industrial complex to step forward and tell us what they know about UFOs and extraterrestrials. And there's according to this new bill, there should be no repercussions for you. So it's very exciting. Again, I'm still pessimistic about it, but at the same time, I've been saying all along, I really hope I'm wrong about this. I'm concerned about some of the problems that they would have with this, with releasing all the information to the public or disclosing the truth to the public, because I think for some people it might be a traumatic experience, but at the same time, I'm really excited, and I hope something comes of this. And I could tell you one person who's very excited is Lou Elizondo. He's very excited about this. In fact, on Christmas Eve, he posted this on Twitter. He wrote, "As promised, we are continuing our efforts behind the scenes. An early Christmas present. The bill is now law. Like a submarine below the depths, no one sees our efforts until they do. And if you think these are exciting times, just wait for 2023. You ain't seen nothing yet." Oh boy, Lou, I'll tell you what, I hope you're right about this, man. I hope you're right about this. It would be totally awesome. I'd love to see us get over this hump already. This is absolutely absurd that 70, actually now we're going into year 76 now of the cover-up. It would be nice if we finally get over this hump and the world knows what the real story is, that there is a presence on this planet that's intelligent and not human, and basically they're more advanced technologically than the human race is. That would be great to get over that hump. And plus, of course, the thing that I would be excited about if we do indeed see disclosure, what I'm interested in is the historical records. I'd love to see everything, if possible, all the stuff they have on Roswell. I'd like to start with Roswell and then go forward from there. Actually, I'm really interested in like any kind of film, photographs, documentation from Roswell, and any other crashes after that. I mean, it would be just totally fascinating. I think it would be. I actually believe, of course, there's going to be people who are going to be upset about this reality, but at the same time, there's going to be a lot of other people out there. And in fact, there are going to be people out there who actually don't even think about UFOs right now. Along with UFO proponents, people who do understand the reality that there is an extraterrestrial presence here, are going to be really excited about this news. I think there's going to be probably a higher percentage of people excited about this news and fascinated about this news should a whistleblower step forward, and should we at some point during the course of 2023 get actual disclosure. It would be completely, totally awesome. And again, wouldn't it be awesome to get like government records, photographs, films, old films, not just this new stuff, dating back to 2004, with the Tic Tac and all that stuff. I'm talking about stuff from the 40s, 50s, 60s. What do we got? I mean, there was the stuff that the late Gordon Cooper used to talk about. There was film that he had where these guys saw a UFO landing and then taking off at Edwards Air Force Base back in the early 60s, I believe it was. I mean, what about that kind of stuff? Wouldn't that be awesome if all that stuff was just finally presented to the public? Now, I honestly, and I've said this before, there are going to be people who are going to be upset. Like, should the disclosure finally happen? If it were to actually finally happen, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be upset. They're going to be, pounding, stomping their feet, angry that it was covered up for all these years, for the past 75 years. Of course, I know people like me and other people who are interested in this subject, people who have had experiences, people who didn't have experiences but believe that there's something here, right? I don't think those people are going to be as angry, because we already know there's a cover-up. We've been dealing with this for a long time, so disclosure would actually be a good thing. I would bear no ill will toward the government. If it finally comes clean on it, it was understandable why it started in the first place. It was very understandable why it started. I mean, you have to understand, what was it, 1938, when Orson Welles had that broadcast, the War of the Worlds, based on H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds novel. He had that radio broadcast, and people who listened to that, some people panicked. They didn't hear the very beginning of that program in 1938, and they didn't realize that it was just a phony, that it was just a fictional presentation, and they thought there really was an invasion from Mars ongoing. Some people, so there was a panic, and I would imagine, 1947, not even a decade later. Roswell happens. I mean, at some point, you can understand people in Washington probably got all concerned and worried. Wait a minute, we can't let the public know about this. Don't you remember what just happened? A decade ago with Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. Yeah. I mean, so you got to understand why why it started like that. Why. There was a cover-up to begin with, but as time went on, I believe that the military-industrial complex, there were other reasons. Then, as time went on, I think it became more of a let's reverse engineer this stuff. Let's not let the public know. I don't think there was a lot of other reasons I think that came into play. They didn't have any answers, and plus, what military wants to admit that they have no power against these things. I mean, that's one. There's so many different issues. That's why I'm still somewhat pessimistic about disclosure ever happening. However, it does need to happen regardless, and maybe this legislation, now that it's a law now. If there are people right now who could step forward, meet with the Congress, tell them, hey, this is what I know, and I hope it happens. I mean, I hope it happens sooner rather than later. I hope like early 2023, or hey, maybe even before New Year's. That would be nice too. But I don't think it's going to happen that quickly. But I would say, in the early months of 2023, I would like to see some action on this. And, Lou knows more than we do, right? He's an insider. So he probably, and also another insider has been Dr. Gary Nolan, who has made it clear that he knows. In this past year, he had made it clear that he knows of people who are chomping at the bit to blow the whistle on this thing. There are people within the Pentagon, within the military industrial complex, who want to tell the truth, who want this to be over with already. Want the human race to move on with the knowledge with reality. Like again, we're stuck in this fictional world right now for the longest time, where we don't know. There could be something. There might not. No, there is something. A lot of us know there's something. There's a lot of us have had experiences and we understand. Yes, there's most certainly an extraterrestrial presence, here, right? Of course. I mean, how many people, tens of thousands of people have had experiences, sightings. I mean, it's just over the decades, it's unbelievable. Not just, civilians, military personnel, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. Who knows how many people actually, I mean, you really can't really put a number on it. You just know it's a lot. And I'm one of them. I saw one of these beings. I saw one of the craft. I experienced these things. I know it's real personally. I have a personal proof. So I'm one of these people. There's a lot of people like me out there who have personal, who were shown. This reality was revealed to them on a personal basis, right? Anyway, here's an article from Liberation Times. This is a really good website if you haven't checked it out. Christopher Sharp writes all these articles on here, and he's really good. And I highly recommend this website if you're interested in what's going on with UFOs. And anyway, this is an article that he posted on December 23rd. That was the day that Biden signed this bill. And basically, the headline reads, "Office which lied and persecuted whistleblowers sidelined by Congress from U.S. UFO investigation." By Christopher Sharp. President Joe Biden today signed the fiscal 2023 National Defense Authorization Act into law, which has been shaped by Congress over previous months. Of note, the legislation contains new provisions relating to what is now known as unidentified anomalous phenomena. So, of course, I've been talking about that recently, how they changed in UAP, which is the new acronym for UF. Instead of UFOs, it's now UAP. But UAP used to be unidentified aerial phenomena. Now they changed it to anomalous phenomena, which actually makes more sense because a lot of these things, they're not just flying through the air. They're under the sea. They're coming in and out of the sea, like transmedium objects. So that was But again, I guess I guess it now makes more sense than UFO in a way. But you know what? I'm still going to use the UFO abbreviation. I think that I'm so used to that. I guess I'm just old school. Anyway, continuing here, it says provisions include protections and reporting mechanisms for potential whistleblowers involved in alleged UAP retrieval and reverse engineering programs, and the requirement for a new report detailing the historical records and documents belonging to the intelligence community relating to UAP from 1 January 1945 onwards. So that's going to cover a lot of ground. Okay, let's stop there for a second. So anything that's been happening with UFOs since January 1st of 1945 onward, anybody who has any information from that point on, right, should be presenting it, and that of course more than covers the Roswell event, because that happened in early July of 1947, outside in the desert outside of Roswell, New Mexico. Okay, continuing. Of note, the legislation also means that Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, director of the UAP office known as the Arrow, which will now report directly to Deputy Secretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks and the principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence Stacy Dixon on all operational and security matters relating to the Arrow. Only administrative matters will now be reported to the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, which is OUSDINS, where a UAP office has been located since 2021, meaning that it would effectively be sidelined on most important elements of the UAP investigations. Now, of course, the Undersecretary of Defense for the head of that is that Ronald Moultrie, who I recently pointed out recently. He had a recent meeting with reporters, and he basically said that they have no evidence that these UAP are associated with extraterrestrials, which I call him an outright liar for that. I believe that I can't imagine that somebody in his position, like I stated before, I can't imagine that somebody in his position, right, does not know the truth about this. How could you be the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security and not know about the extraterrestrial presence here, right? I know about it. I'm just some yo-ho out there, running around this planet. I know about it. How does this guy not know about it? Anyway, continuing. Speaking to Liberation Times, Pentagon spokesperson Susan Goff commented, she's another one. Anyway, that's for another day. Per the fiscal year 23 NDAA enacted today, as director of Arrow, Dr. Kirkpatrick will continue reporting to the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security for Arrow in administrative matters. So just administrative stuff that this Dr. Kirkpatrick, who heads this all anomalous Arrow, whatever it stands for, I can't remember offhand here. He will report to the Deputy Secretary of Defense and the Director of National Intelligence on operational and security matters. I refer you to Congress regarding why they made that change. Yeah, she refers you to Congress to why they made it. We all know why they made that change. It's because you covered it up. That's why they made that change, because you're covering it up for 75 years and we're sick of it. People are sick and tired of the cover-up. That's why that's the reason. You should have just said that. You should have just said, you know what? We've been covered up for 75 years and people are sick of it, and the Congress finally passed legislation so we can't cover it up anymore and we can have whistleblowers. That's the reason. Anyway, continuing. Liberation Times has contacted the Office of Senate Intelligence Committee Chair Senator Mark Warner for further comment and is awaiting a response. Former director of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or ATIP, Lou Elizondo, has previously warned of the involvement from OUSDINS, stating, please contact your representatives and let them know that this is unacceptable and not in the best interest of the American people. The USDI is the one single office that has continuously lied about this topic and persecuted whistleblowers. I've talked about this before too. They've lied. Elizondo knows they're lying. We all know they're lying. And again, how could someone in Ronald Moultrie's position not know what's going on here? All right, continuing. In an open letter published in November 2021, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, Christopher Mellon, was scathing of OUSDINS, writing, as a former OSD staffer myself, I'm shocked that the DepSecDef would assign the UAP function to an oversight staff with no UAP funding, line authority, contracting, command, or technical capabilities. Indeed, the inability of USDI to engage effectively on the UAP issue is why so little has changed or been accomplished since 2004. I'd take it a step further there. I would have said, indeed, my comment would have been, indeed, the ability of USDI to engage effectively on the UAP issue is why so little has changed or been accomplished since 1947. That's what I would have said. That's just me, though. Anyway, continuing. The confirmation of this move comes 6 days after Ronald Moultrie, Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, hosted an Arrow press roundtable with Dr. Kirkpatrick. At that roundtable, Moultrie commented, "As I said to congressional leaders in May, we are fully committed to the principles of openness and accountability to the American people." Well, if you were fully committed to it, then you would have just said the truth right then and there. You would have said, well, there's an extraterrestrial presence on Earth. Sorry to break it to the debunkers and the skeptics out there, but guess what? There are aliens on this planet, aliens flying around in craft that we have that run circles around anything that we got, and there's nothing we can do about it. If you would have been being open by saying that would have been open. But what you did say at that press conference, it wasn't being open. And then he continued here. "We are committed to sharing as much detail with the public as we can." Hold on a second while I laugh at that one. All right. With that, I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Kirkpatrick to share some of the progress that we've made since Arrow's establishment. It says they're going forward, Moultrie will be less involved in the day-to-day running of the Arrow. Now, let me just stop there for a minute. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing. Eyebrows were raised in April 2021 when it was confirmed that Director of Defense Intelligence Gary Reed was executive secretary of the OUSDI and SUAP office previously known as OMSG. See, all these other things. That's another thing. They can try to confuse the public with all these crazy names for these UFO offices over the years. Anyway, that was despite Lou Elizondo making a complaint accusing Reed of playing a central role in obfuscating information regarding the UAP topic. In his complaint, Elizondo accused Reed of malicious activities, coordinated disinformation, professional misconduct, whistleblower reprisal, and explicit threats. Elizondo, this is from an earlier article, he told the Debrief, he was one of the biggest obstacles in the Department of Defense's investigations and public transparency of unidentified aerial phenomena. Let me just stop there for a second. So really what's going on here, right? You know, what I believe is going, and I'm sure that this will all come out, you know, in the wash someday. You know, someday it would all come out. But I mean, I think it's pretty clear. It's more or less not the military, right? That's really part of this. They're involved. There are more certainly elements within the Pentagon that are involved in this cover-up. But it's basically on the behest of the military-industrial complex. There are people within the military-industrial complex who don't want this information to get out to the public for whatever reason, right? That's who I believe. In fact, I'll get into that later on. And that's what's going on, basically. I mean, it's the military-industrial complex, Lockheed Martin, companies like that, Grumman Northrop, things like places like that. They're the ones all these decades have been wanting to cover this thing up, for their own purposes and basically stunt mankind's progression. It's just ridiculous to keep this. This is the biggest story of all time, and basically these defense weapons manufacturers for all these decades have been responsible. I believe I think they're the biggest villain behind the scenes all these decades. I believe, again, like I said, I believe at first it was this concern about the panic, but and I'm sure that there's still concerns about what the panic, right? There's still going to be concerns about that. There's going to be people, again, who's going to freak out, but it would have been a lot worse back in the late 40s and throughout the 50s than it would be now. I think the human race has grown up a little bit more since then. Anyway, continuing. Despite being removed from his position in July 2022, Pentagon spokesperson Susan Goff confirmed that Reed was a senior advisor to the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, Scott Barrier. From now on, OUSDINS and Reed's former colleagues will be removed from the operational and security facets of the Arrow, the most significant aspects of its efforts, meaning Moultrie's office will no longer play a pivotal role in its operations. Yeah, I'll leave the link for this article. A very good article. In fact, like I said before, this website has a lot of good stuff on it. Anyway, now I guess we have to wait for who's gonna be the first one to step up to the plate. Who's going to be the first whistleblower? I guess that's going to be what we're going to sit back and wait for now.